for the CS and art training. This one is going to focus on using sound in your programs, and there is a little bit of starter code. It's not actually saved in a document, but it is located in the curriculum. So you are either welcome to pop open a new blank editor and copy this down as I go through it with you. Or if you would rather just do a little copy paste, please open up the curriculum to the sound lesson and you will see a code box where you can copy and paste this into your blank editor. Sorry for any inconvenience. We just want to make sure that you get a little practice either way. When you're doing this with your students, please make the executive decision on which one would be easier for them, either sharing them with the code that's coming directly from the curriculum or having them write this out while you go through it together. So if you are writing it out, please feel free to pause at any point in time, but I am just going to walk through line by line what is happening in this program. So in P5, there is an entire separate sound library, and when we are working in this P5 editor, that sound library is automatically linked. So that will allow me to do a lot of different things with sounds, loading them, playing them, but also getting them directly from my computer. So in this example, I'm looking at the audio in, and I need to be able to save that audio in somewhere so that I can utilize it later. So my very first step on line 1 has been to create a global variable, a variable that I can use anywhere in my program in setup or in draw or in another function if I ended up making one, called mic. And I am going to use that down in setup. So in my setup function, we are still drawing a canvas just like we always have. But on line 5, you'll see that I am setting mic equal to a new p5.audioin. This might look a little funky, and it should look a little funky. You don't have to know everything about what's happening here. If you care, or if you are someone with prior experience, this new denotes that we are going to be creating an object from a class. This class comes from P5, and the class name is audio in. And all that is going to do is get the incoming audio. It is not wildly important that you or your students understand all of that. You don't need to in order to engage with this material or complete the course. It's just kind of on background for you. Now on line 6, once we have created that new line to get our audio in, we need to start reading the incoming audio. We're not recording, we're not taking all of this data, we are just looking at it kind of real time as it happens. So mic.start is going to make that work. It's going to make sure that we start taking things in as it happens. And then down in draw, you're going to see that we are getting the mic level. And I am actually going to add one line to this. I'm going to add a console.log for circ size. Now, if you recall, console.log doesn't really do anything in our program. It's not required to use it for things to work. All it's going to do is print a value in our console, which is this space down here. In this case, it's going to print the value of circ size, which is mic.getLevel. Now, you'll also see that I'm already using circ size, and I'm actually going to get rid of some of this code because I jumped ahead a little bit. I'm not going to multiply it by anything so that we can see it as is right away. And I just want us to notice some things that are happening. Now, first, when I hit play, I'm going to get this pop-up, and I'm not entirely sure if you're going to see it on your screen, but it is the pop-up that says editor.p5js.org wants to use your microphone. And I need to tell it what I want to do. I'm going to say allow this time. And realistically, I could say allow on every visit, but I want to maintain some sense of privacy. We can now see that because it's using my microphone, I have a completely blank screen. It's black right now, but I could change that. And I have all these values coming into my console. Something we should notice about these values is that they are varying in very, very small amounts. So it's never really going above 1, even when I'm talking quite a bit louder or clapping my hands, it's still very small. So I'm using circ size to control the circle size, but I don't see a circle here, and I suspect that's because it's really, really small. So if I were to change my background to 220, I can kind of see in the very center of my screen this dot that's maybe wiggling a little tiny bit, and that's because it's trying to draw, but it is being fed the tiniest values from my mic. If I want to increase these values, I can do something like what you saw before. I could multiply circ size by 100, And now when I talk, you'll see that my shape is getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I'm gonna go ahead and multiply by 200 just so we can see the shape start to get large. I could also do something like maybe add 100 and then multiply by, I don't know, 10. This will make sure that it always has some type of value or that I broke it. Let's see what happens if I put this in parentheses. I want to add. Maybe that won't work for me. We'll come back to this later. Let's put in circ size times 100. I'm not sure why that's broken. I suspect it's because when I'm not talking, there's no value there. So I now have circ size times 200, and I'm getting my circle that's moving as I'm talking, and it's all very fine and good. But when I stop talking, my circle goes away, or it at least fades down to this like little dot of nothing. If I want something to be sound reactive, but I want it to display in a range, I could utilize something called the map function. So the map function is a function that is going to take a changing value and it's going to look at its original minimum and maximum range and remap it proportionally to a new set of values. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new variable called mapped size, and I'm going to set it equal to the map function. Now, the map function is going to take 5 values in. It's going to take my original variable, which is circ size, and then it needs to know the minimum and maximum of that original variable. So my minimum is 0. I have never really seen it go past 0.1, so I'm going to make that my maximum. And then it takes a new range. So in this new range, I am saying this is the smallest I want it to go. Like when circ size is 0, this is as small as I want it to be. And then when it's 0.1, this is as large as I possibly want it to be. So I'm going to say that at the very least, I want my circle to be 50 units wide. And at the very most, I want it to be 200. Now down here, instead of circ size times 200, I'm going to write in mapped size. And I'm going to go ahead and hit play so we can see this in action. So now I still have this shape. It still changes size when I'm talking, but now it's in a different range. When I'm quiet, it never goes away. It just goes all the way down to 50. If I'm really loud, it's never going to get bigger than 200, even if somehow I bypass the 0.1 somewhere in my console. And I'm seeing numbers that approach it, but it's still not getting close. If I didn't like this range, I could just adjust maybe the 200 to 100 so that it varies, but it's a little bit smaller. I could even try doing like 50 to 75. So again, it's changing, but it's changing more subtly. Like right now, it almost looks like a heartbeat because it's going between just very subtle values. Map is a little confusing. It is a lot to take in. We do not have to use it. You are welcome if you want to make things reactive to just multiply your whatever mic value, whatever variable is holding that. But if you do choose to use map, please remember it's taking in a changing number, the min and max of that range, and then a new min and a new max that it will remap to. You would then need to use the variable that you set this equal to somewhere in your program in order to get the results of that mapped thing. I hope you have fun playing with this. I want to make sure that we're clear. You never have to use audio in your programs, but this is one of the big benefits of using a coded language like P5, JavaScript, anything else you might be coding in over traditional artistic mediums, is that we can start getting interesting input from sensory things happening in a space and from the user. Good luck. I'm excited to see what you make with this, and I'll see you in the next lesson.